클릭해주셔서 감사합니다.
Hello everyone, I'm Lysia JK. In the previous lecture, we explored the future where humans may no longer need to work because of artificial intelligence and automation. Today we are gonna discuss another enormous question. Can human civilization survive infinite consumption? Modern civilization is built on economic growth. Countries celebrate growth. Companies pursue growth. Markets reward growth. Consumers are encouraged to buy more. Economic expansion became deeply connected to modern prosperity, but this creates a serious question. Can infinite growth continue on a finite planet? Can humanity continue consuming more resources forever? Or are there natural limits that civilization cannot escape? Today we will explore consumerism, capitalism, energy, environmental limits, sustainability, climate change, and the long-term future of civilization itself. This may become one of the defining questions of the 21st century. Let's begin. First, let's understand how modern economic systems developed. For most of human history, economic growth was extremely slow. People produced relatively small amounts of goods. Technology advanced slowly. Most humans lived near subsistence levels. But industrialization changed everything. Machines dramatically increased productivity. Factories transformed manufacturing. Fossil fuels provided enormous amounts of energy. Global trade expanded rapidly. Human civilization suddenly gained extraordinary productive power. Modern economic systems became increasingly dependent on continuous expansion. Now let's discuss why growth became so important. Economic growth provides many benefits. Growth can reduce poverty, increase employment, improve healthcare, expand education, support technological innovation, and raise living standards. When economies grow, governments collect more tax revenue. Businesses earn more profits. Workers often earn higher wages. Growth became closely associated with progress itself. But now we encounter a major problem. Economic activity requires resources. Civilization consumes energy, water, forests, minerals, land, food, and fossil fuels, and the earth has physical limits. This creates tension between economic expansion and environmental sustainability. Now let's discuss fossil fuels. Modern civilization was largely built using coal, oil, and natural gas. Fossil fuels powered factories, transportation, electricity, global trade, and industrial agriculture. These energy sources dramatically accelerated economic growth, but they also produced enormous environmental consequences. Burning fossil fuels released greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide. These gases contribute to global warming and climate change. Now let's pause and think carefully. Climate change is not only an environmental issue, it is also an economic issue. Why? Because climate instability affects agriculture, infrastructure, energy systems, migration, food prices, insurance markets, and national security. Extreme weather events can create enormous economic damage. Rising sea levels threaten coastal cities. Droughts threaten food production. Heat waves reduce labor productivity. Environmental systems and economic systems are deeply interconnected. Now let's discuss consumerism. Modern economies encourage consumption continuously. Advertisements constantly tell people buy more, upgrade more, consume more, desire more. Economic growth often depends heavily on consumer spending. In many countries, consumption became part of personal identity itself. People increasingly define success through possessions and lifestyle. This creates psychological as well as environmental consequences. Now here is an important question. Do humans actually need an endless consumption to live meaningful lives? Modern economists often assume increasing consumption automatically improves happiness, but research in happiness economics suggests something more complicated. After basic needs are met, endlessly increasing material consumption does not necessarily increase long-term well-being proportionally. Humans adapt quickly to material improvements. This is sometimes called the hedonic treadmill. People become accustomed to new comforts rapidly, then seek even more. Now let's discuss planned obsolescence. Some industries intentionally design products to become outdated quickly. Why? Because constant replacement increases profits and consumption. For example, electronics, fashion, appliances, and software ecosystems. This creates massive waste. Modern civilization produces enormous quantities of garbage and product pollution partly because economic systems reward continuous consumption. Now let's discuss ecological limits. The earth contains finite ecosystems. Forests regenerate slowly. Freshwater resources are limited. Biodiversity can collapse. Fish populations can disappear. Economic systems sometimes treat nature as if resources are unlimited. But ecological systems operate according to physical laws, not market optimism. Now let's discuss an important economic idea, externalities. An externalities occurs when economic activity creates costs not reflected in market prices. For example, a factory may produce profitable goods while promoting labors or error. The company earns profits, consumers enjoy cheaper products, but environmental damage affects society more broadly. Markets often fail to price environmental destruction properly. This is one reason governments sometimes regulate pollution and emissions. Now let's discuss renewable energy. Some economists and scientists believe technological innovation can solve many environmental challenges. Renewable energy sources include solar power, wind power, hydroelectric power, and geothermal energy. Advances in battery storage, electric transportation, and energy efficiency may help civilization reduce dependence on fossil fuels. This creates hope for sustainable economic development, but optimism alone is not enough. Transitioning global civilization toward sustainability is extremely difficult. Why? Because modern economies are deeply dependent on existing infrastructure. Entire industries depend on fossil fuels. Political systems also face pressure from competing economic interests. Environmental transitions often involve difficult trade-offs involving jobs, prices, energy reliability, and economic competitiveness. This makes climate policy politically controversial. Now let's discuss capitalism more deeply. Some critics argue capitalism itself encourages unsustainable consumption. Why? Because companies compete for profits and expansion continuously. If growth slows significantly, economies may experience recessions, unemployment, and financial instability. This creates systemic pressure for perpetual growth. Critics ask, can capitalism remain stable without continuous expansion? But defenders of capitalism respond differently. They argue markets and innovation may solve environmental problems more effectively than centralized systems. They point out that technology historically improved efficiency dramatically. For example, modern agriculture produces far more food per acre than older systems. Energy technologies continue improving. Many developed economies reduced certain forms of pollution through innovation and regulation. Supporters believe human creativity can overcome many resource limitations. Now, here is an important distinction. There are two different types of growth. Extensive growth means using more physical resources. Intensive growth means becoming more efficient and productive using existing resources. Future civilization may increasingly depend on intensive growth rather than simply consuming more materials. Now let's discuss population. For centuries, many economists worried population growth would eventually outpace resources. This idea became associated with Thomas Malthus. Malthus feared civilization would face inevitable shortages and collapse. But technological progress repeatedly expanded productive capacity. Agricultural innovation prevented many predicted famines. Still, modern civilization now faces new questions about sustainability, especially at global scale. Now let's discuss psychological consumption. Consumption is not only economic, it is emotional and social. Humans often consume to gain status, identity, recognition, and belonging. Advertising frequently targets emotional desires rather than basic needs. This makes reducing consumption culturally difficult. Now let's think philosophically. What is the ultimate purpose of economic growth? Is growth merely a tool to improve human life, or did growth itself become the goal? Modern societies sometimes measure success primarily through GDP growth, but GDP alone does not measure happiness, meaning social trust, mental health, environmental sustainability, or human flourishing. This creates an important civilizational question. Should economies exist to maximize production or to maximize human well-being? Now let's discuss degrowth. Some thinkers argue advanced societies should intentionally reduce excessive consumption. This idea is called degrowth. Supporters argue civilization should prioritize sustainability, leisure, community, ecological balance, and quality of life rather than endless material expansion. Critics worry degrowth could reduce prosperity, innovation, and employment. The debate remains highly controversial. Now let's discuss technological optimism again. Some futurists believe humanity may eventually solve resource limitations through advanced technology. Possible future technologies include nuclear fusion, space mining, advanced recycling systems, artificial food production, carbon capture, and fully renewable energy systems. If successful, these technologies could dramatically expand civilization's long-term capacity, but these solutions remain uncertain. Now let's discuss civilization historically. Many past civilizations collapsed partly because they exhausted environmental resources. Examples include deforestation, soil depletion, and water mismanagement. Human societies are never completely separate from nature. Modern civilization is technologically advanced but still biologically dependent on Earth's ecosystems. Now here is another important idea. The environmental crisis may also become a moral crisis. Future generations will inherit the consequences of present decisions. This raises ethical questions. What responsibilities do current societies have toward future humans? Economics becomes deeply connected to intergenerational ethics here. Now let's discuss inequality again. Environmental problems often affect poorer populations more severely. Wealthy individuals and countries can often adapt more easily to climate risks. Poorer regions may face food insecurity, water shortages, extreme weather vulnerability, and migration pressures. This means environmental sustainability and global justice are deeply connected. Now let's think about artificial intelligence again. AI may help humanity manage resources more efficiently. Advanced systems could optimize energy grids, transportation, agriculture, and supply chains. But technology alone cannot solve value conflicts. Human societies must still decide what kind of future do humans actually want. Now let's discuss meaning once more. Modern civilization became extraordinarily powerful materially, but many people still feel anxiety, loneliness, meaninglessness, and exhaustion. This suggests human flourishing depends on more than consumption alone. Now here is one final important idea. Civilization may eventually face a choice between two different futures. One path prioritizes endless consumption, short-term growth, and immediate convenience. The other prioritizes sustainability, long-term stability, ecological balance, and human well-being. The future may depend on whether humanity can balance prosperity with responsibility. So let's summarize today's lecture. Modern civilization achieved extraordinary prosperity through industrialization, fossil fuels, and economic growth. However, continuous consumption creates environmental pressures involving climate change, resource depletion, and ecological instability. Consumerism often encourages endless material desire even when additional consumption does not necessarily increase long-term happiness. Future civilization may need to balance economic growth with sustainability, technological innovation, and ecological responsibility. And ultimately, the challenge facing humanity may not simply be producing more, but learning how to live wisely within the limits of a finite planet. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this lecture, please like and subscribe. And in the next lecture, we will explore another fascinating question. Could artificial intelligence eventually control the global economy? See you next time.